morning to you. I am going live today on Instagram and here on Facebook and YouTube, so I'll be splitting my time visually between the two. Today, what I want to do is answer some of the questions that I get asked most often as a vocal coach. Today's question is how to improve your vocal stamina. This is one I get asked a lot. I mean, basically, I've taken all of the questions that I get asked when I first start working with a singer. I get them to complete an artist questionnaire, and so I've pulled these and have tried to answer them. And I try to speak to them quite regularly because they are common and I feel they speak to many singers' desires or fears or frustrations. And as a vocal coach, my name is Cherie Mathieson. If you've not met me before, I am a professional singer here in Auckland, New Zealand. And I've been doing it for about 28 years. Alongside vocal coaching, more recently is my major passion. And I love helping singers feel more confident with their vocal ability by giving them some tips and tools, basically building a singer's toolkit and really making sure that they know and understand how to look after their voices and make sound super efficiently. That's the goal, because then creatively you can do whatever you want with your storytelling, knowing that you are healthy with your voice and that you are doing it in a way that allows you to be consistent. And that's what vocal stamina is all about, really. So I want to share 5 tips with you today. The first one is regular focused practice. That's what shifts the dial from the perspective of you're able to be really conscious with the activities that you do, the exercises that you do, and the time that you set aside. So ideally, you want to be doing some kind of regular practice based on where you're at, where you're starting from with your vocal stamina. So I use the analogy of like working out at the gym, because at the end of the day, larynx, vocal folds, muscles, ligaments, like any other in our body, and we need to look at it from that perspective. So if you're going to the gym for the first time and you're creating an exercise plan, the trainer will take into account what you've done in the past and what you're working towards. Now, I have an exercise science background. I used to be a gym trainer and an aerobics instructor, and I see this overlay, this consistent overlay between the two working really well, both singing practice plans and exercise plans. So what you want to do firstly to improve your stamina is figure out consistent, focused practice plans based on what your goals are, and then get into them. And so what a practice plan needs to have when it to be focused is ideally you want to know where you're starting from, what it is exactly that you're working towards as a vocalist, whether it's a performance or a particular technical element that you want to strengthen, and then you make that the center of your practice plan. Then you decide how many times a week is good for where you're at, and I suggest anywhere between, say, 1 to 5 times a week, 15, working your way up to 60 minutes each session, and then really being clear about what it is that you're going to workshop or practice in that time. The thing with that is that you do need to factor in vocal rest, and that's tip 2, making sure that you're having rest in between practices, because you don't want to fatigue your voice. Just like your muscles, you want to be able to come back and do singing exercises or just sing without feeling like you're really tired and you've overworked. That's the same for gigs as well, by the way, and just general practices. So having a regular focused practice plan, incorporating vocal rest around that. And then the next step is the technique. So whether it's the ones that you're practicing in your practice plan or whilst you're performing, having a really solid singer's technique toolkit is what I call it, where you can draw troubleshooting tips from the recesses of your mind that you know work or that your vocal coach has helped you to develop over time, help to create a more efficient sound production process. And in turn, when you're more efficient, you're able to get more done whilst not kind of overdoing it, which is what we want with vocal stamina. Consistency, focused practice, really efficient techniques that help us troubleshoot and get the sounds that we want to get out. So yeah, that's the third one. And then, like I said, consistency. I've said it about 10 million times since we started this, but the best way to build up your vocal stamina is just to keep doing keep singing specifically within that practice plan framework, because that will make sure that you actually see some gains. The final step is one that I think we miss out the most, and that is review. So you've got your regular focused practice plan. You're taking regular vocal rest. You're also up-leveling your techniques and what you can do to produce sound more efficiently. You are being super consistent with it, but sometimes we forget to actually check and see if it's working. And the best way to do that is what I call a video performance review. So you would take essentially a before video of a song that you're workshopping, or a technical element, whether it's a phrase or a couple of bars, and you video yourself practicing it. You take a break, you watch back, and you see if there's anything else that you can add or take away. And when I say take away, I'm specifically meaning tension. Adding might be adding another technique to make the efficiency of the sound production more easier. So for example, utilizing resonance or your filter to help with projection versus pushing too much breath, or effort, which is usually what most singers do. I call it the throw the kitchen sink at it singing. Sometimes we are trying so hard that it actually creates tension, and we need to understand that variable dynamic of being able to dial the effort numbers back and see what happens. You might find that the sound is actually just as good, if not better, plus it gives you the opportunity to be more consistent and in turn build your vocal stamina. So watching back, reviewing, that also informs what you can do or what you should do in your practice, in your focused practice plans. And that really gives you a great foundation for building your vocal stamina. So regular focused practice, vocal rest, techniques, making sure that you're consistent with it, and then reviewing regularly and essentially setting yourself some new goals. Now that framework that I've kind of talked about just then, in my coaching curriculum, I have these 4 stages, these 4 pillars of really confident singing. It's preparation, which I see as daily vocal care habits, looking after your voice, making sure you're releasing tension, both in your speaking and your singing. Then practice, which we've just talked about, having a really clear practice plan or a template for what you're going to do. Then polishing, and that often comes down to workshopping a particular song or technique, videoing it, watching it back, just like I described. And then the final, the payoff, the performance. So whether you're performing regularly or not so regularly, you can create your own performance opportunities, even if you're just practicing, by using those videos. The video performance review gives you an opportunity to perform, and that would be recording yourself singing a song once you've worked out everything that you want to do and how you want to deliver it or interpret it, and then watching it back just for development. But then also you might want to share it on YouTube, or you might want to do a live stream or do a live house concert if you haven't got regular gigs coming up. So that framework of those 4 steps, that's cyclical. That has to keep going throughout your process of vocal development. And sometimes not knowing where you're at or what you need to focus on the most for today can actually be the challenging thing, because there's so many moving parts. So when I start working with singers, like I said in the beginning, I ask them a series of questions, an artist questionnaire, and that helps us figure out where the best place to start is and what we really need to pay special attention to. I've taken that artist questionnaire and I've made it into a masterclass where I'm going to ask you actually the 4 must-ask questions for developing your voice. So you're welcome to come along if you're unsure of where you're at. It's a free masterclass. I'm holding it tomorrow and then one next week. I'll pop the link after this live into the description box. And that might give you some insight as to where you're starting. The other thing I'm going to do in the masterclass is give you a personalized plan so that you can see the next steps that you have to follow. So if any of those pillars that I talked about are a little bit of a mystery to you, need a bit of help, come into the masterclass. But I am talking about some of these questions that have uncovered themselves when I've asked questions of my singers before we start working together, and I'm tackling them over the next week. So tomorrow's is, well, actually, this is more my little secret tip, but it is the #1 practice, what I feel is the #1 practice to becoming a better singer, and I've kind of touched on it today. but I'll go a little bit further into it tomorrow. So if you're interested to find out what has helped me personally up-level my singing, what one exercise, plus for everyone else I work with, they always get so much out of this particular practice. Come back tomorrow live at 11 o'clock here in New Zealand Standard Time. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions about how to improve your vocal stamina. And I hope that these tips today have helped you to get an insight into what you should do next. And if you don't know, come and see me in the masterclass and I'll give you some more info. Have an amazing day and I'll see you tomorrow.